Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Jim Grisanzio from the Oracle Groundbreakers team, and we're back here for a conversation with Graeme Rocher from Oracle Labs. And we're going to talk a little bit about Java, a little bit about the conference that's coming up in a couple of weeks, the Oracle Developer Live Java. That's the Java edition. We did database last month, and next month will be MySQL. So anyway, Graeme, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
It's really good to meet you. I've actually we've crossed paths at a few conferences in the last couple of years. I never actually had a chance to grab you and shake your hand and say hello, and now I have to do it through Zoom. So,
well, everything is virtually nowadays, it seems. Yes. So I guess we'll have to get used to it. But yes, it was a pleasure meeting you in person when I did get the opportunity, and it's good to see you virtually now as well.
Good. So I wanted to talk to you because you're going to be one of the speakers at this upcoming conference here in a couple of weeks. It's a Java conference with a lot of Java engineers and senior executive engineering managers, and you're going to be doing a session, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. But first, just as a way of intro, you're the creator of Grails and Micronaut, and you're a Java champion. And a couple of years ago, you received a Groundbreaker award from Oracle. I remember that. And so just wanted to get that out there. And so let's start off with just a little bit about the conference that's coming up and your session. What's going to be going on there?
So I'm going to be doing a hands-on lab about Micronaut. And deploying Micronaut applications to Oracle Cloud. We'll be doing a bit of demo of autonomous database and generally going through how to develop database-based applications with Micronaut.
Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about how you run a hands-on lab when everybody's hands-on but distributed. No one's in the same room.
Well, this is going to be, I think, a learning experience for me as well as the audience, in that it's certainly a changing world. I think we have to adapt and challenge ourselves to do new things. I think we have put a good structure in place in that, we have amazing technology out there to do these kinds of labs virtually, things like Zoom, things like the communication tools we have today are way more advanced than they were 10 years ago. And, we're going to have breakout rooms where people can ask questions. There's going to be a lot of time for attendees to get virtual feedback. And, there'll be a little bit of time to do one-to-ones with individuals. So I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting to challenge ourselves and challenge what can be done on these platforms. I'm confident attendees are going to have a good experience with developing Micronaut apps hands-on.
Cool. Okay. Well, good luck with it. So I know, several of the conferences I've been to recently, so people have been experimenting with these labs, and actually most of them have worked out pretty well. Because I think everybody's sort of invested in really needing to make it work,
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the session itself in terms of building, cloud native apps with Micronaut. Is this a productivity issue, a speed of development issue? What's a little bit about that?
Well, in general, going cloud native nowadays is about building applications that can be deployed to the cloud. Without necessarily making significant changes to the application to adapt to that cloud. But 12-factor apps that can read their environment and know that they're running in the cloud and adapt to that fact. And Micronaut has some really great features in that area. For example, when you run a Micronaut app, it'll detect what cloud you're running in. It'll figure out if you're running in Oracle Cloud or if you're running in one of the other clouds, and it'll say, oh, I'm running in this cloud, and then you can write components that are only active for that particular cloud and will integrate with that particular cloud's features. And that's why we call it cloud native, because it can adapt to the environment and the cloud that you're running in, and provides levels of abstraction that allow you to integrate with the cloud. And in the case of the lab, we're going to be using autonomous database. So, there's a database factor in there, which, is running in the cloud, and how you set up the credentials and configure it to allow it to connect to essentially a managed database in the cloud. And so there's going to be a lot of those aspects demonstrated. So it should be pretty exciting, I think.
Cool. And how long is this going to run for?
So it's a 2-hour lab. So we're going to have, I imagine, around half an hour of that spent, just presenting and demonstrating how to do the lab to the audience. And then I imagine there'll be at least 90 minutes for the attendees to actually get the lab done in their own time. And of course, if attendees don't finish in the 2 hours, they can also go away and finish the lab in their own time. It will be available online, and they'll be able to complete it offline or away from the lab environment. Right. And I'm sure many of us as well will also be hanging around the conference. So if there's any further questions after the lab is over, there'll be attendees will be able to ask questions and so forth. Okay,
cool. Yeah, I noticed we just finished an Oracle Groundbreakers India Yatra conference. It was insane. It was 3 weeks of sessions, all day, every day. It was really, really insane. But one of the things that they did a lot of was Q&A. The Indian community really actually asked a lot of questions, and sometimes the Q&A sessions would run twice as long as the actual session ran. So and everyone's doing it virtually, So
yeah, exactly, and that's why for each lab that is being run, there's going to be multiple people to be able to answer those questions. This will be myself, of course, and 5 additional support instructors that will be able to answer questions. And so there's, it's going to be there's going to be the volume of instructors there available to handle the Q&A load, which I'm sure will be, like you said, potentially quite high. We're going to have a blast. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. One of my personal interest is in productivity, and I was taking a look at a little bit about your history and your obviously creator of Grails and Micronaut, and so these are frameworks. These are tools that are really enabling developers to be much more productive than they were years ago. Now, I'm not a developer, but I can just observe their development. Okay, I can just observe how much more productive they are. And I remember years ago, I was the community manager on the Open Solaris project. So I was around a lot of Solaris engineers, and you can't help but notice just how productive an engineer can be with just a little bit of knowledge. Well, actually, in their case, a lot of knowledge, but and some tools, just to do some extraordinary things, to change systems, to create systems that affect millions of people's lives. I mean, that is just a powerful, powerful thing. And I wanted to get your opinion about this. I mean, is this something, it strikes me, it really, really impresses me. Is this something that you guys talk about in terms of productivity, about really leveraging the skills and the tools of one person to do very significantly dramatic things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, throughout my career, I've always been on a kind of quest to make things simpler. I'm allergic to complexity, and I hate things that are complex. So and when something is complex, I try and build something that is going to allow it to not be complex. And when I looked at when I started Grails, for example, we were using technologies like Spring and Hibernate and so forth, and there was a lot of XML involved, a lot of complexity to wire all these things together, and I was looking for a way to simplify all that because I wanted to deliver applications quickly to customers. And the Groovy language combined with Grails allowed me to, at the time, really deliver applications faster, and allowed a lot of developers to do that. And then Micronaut as well, Micronaut is one of these new generation frameworks, which is really optimizing for performance and memory footprint and whatever, but doing so while still maintaining that kind of same productivity benefit of the previous generation of frameworks. And, if you don't have a focus on productivity, then you're just not going to get it. The framework is not going to get adoption. It's not going to generate interest. Productivity is that important that developers have to feel like they're accomplishing things when things are in the way or preventing, causing barriers to getting stuff done. That's what agitates a developer, right? And makes them grumpy. So that's certainly what agitates me. I like getting stuff done. Micronaut is very much designed around helping developers get things done in the shortest time frame imaginable, while still building applications that are highly optimized and efficient and can be built into native images with Graal VM and all those things. So that's the focus of Micronaut.
I wish you just described not only the tool, but also your thinking as well. It's a certain perspective that you have, right? It's just a certain way of thinking. I wish other fields had this as well, because it's like you sit and you talk to a developer and it bothers them if they have to repeat a step twice, right?
Yeah.
It really bothers them. It's like, I don't necessarily see that same level of angst in other people in other fields, and it gets to, which if you have to repeat something twice, on a scalability issue, that actually could be, something serious.
Yeah. I think you do get that in the technology industry as well. It's just that, there is enough competition around that, if what you're building is not competitive from a productivity standpoint, then there'll be something else better to replace you around the corner. That's just the way the technology world works, in terms of things evolve quickly, and it's adapt or die, essentially. So from a technology standpoint, because somebody out there with some crazy hacker will be putting something that's going to be the next big thing out there. So you have to evolve, and you have to be 10 years ago, for example, concepts like serverless, concepts like Kubernetes and so forth, technologies like Kubernetes didn't exist 10 years ago. So, and those disruptive technologies come around, and you have to think about how other technologies fit with those platforms and evolve together with those platforms, and how we really think about how we build applications for the next 10 years. And that's where I'm always thinking about it. It's not how we're going to, how we built applications the last 10 years, how we're going to be building applications for the next 10 years.
Right. And with this fast evolution, you have to innovate or die. But on the other, which is hard, actually you have to keep on working, you have to keep on innovating. That might sound crass, but on the other hand, it offers new opportunity constantly for young people, even for older people, if you've got the stamina to learn something new.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, if I have any advice to anybody who's young, up and coming in the technology world, or even folks that are older and just want to learn something new, like you said, that don't ever think that your dream is unrealistic or whatever. Just try and go for it and see, and see what sticks. It may be that your idea is actually crazy and it's not going to go anywhere, but how do you find that out without giving it a go? So
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to bring up is development now. How are things changed now in 2020? It's a year that I think needs no description. You just say 2020 and everyone knows. I've been to many conferences. I've been to many, hack fests. I've been to many of these things, and I've observed developers. They'll talk to each other at sessions. They'll talk in the hallways. Inevitably, they'll end up somewhere in a corner somewhere, with a couple of computers hacking away on something. And these conversations can be very, very focused and very, very intense. And then they'll go to the bar and do a little hacking there and do social activities. There's a physical proximity. There's a power in being physically close. It's just a high resolution experience. Now, the reason I want to ask you this question is because, we've had a lot of conferences in recent years. The whole conference, circuit has exploded, but it wasn't always that way, right? There's always been distributed development. I mean, if you look at the early Linux community, there wasn't a lot of conferences in the early years. And then we escalated. There was a conference every single week up until just, this year. So what are your experiences in this world now in terms of 2020, in terms of your development? Have things changed? Are they reverting back to where they were sort of the pre-conference, era? What do you think about that?
Well, obviously we're in an artificial situation here where, everything is the world is on hold in a way, as we live this situation, and which is what it is. But I think that, it maybe is the case that there were, too many conferences before. I certainly couldn't go to every one.
Yeah.
It was physically impossible. You have to get stuff done. And so, I used to target what the ones that I was either close to in terms of proximity or provided the most value, even before this happened. However, now, everything going virtual, I think there's obviously, still huge value in virtual conferences. And, we have to continue to get the word out about technology and exciting ideas and engage the audience. But it is true, like you said, that, so much of the networking is maybe not going to be happening as effectively. Person-to-person interaction, I still think is super important. And networking was always, something that I felt was hugely important, in terms of the conference scene. Building those relationships, and that's definitely harder. I think we all need to work at it virtually. I do hope that the conference scene returns. I don't know if it will return to the level it was before. I don't know. I can't even attempt to speculate, but I do hope that at some point, from a networking perspective, that many of the physical conferences, at least the major ones, do make a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed just in my own experience, I can meet actually more people this way because you can just attend them, but the resolution really is quite low. And so this just doesn't have the stickiness. When I go to a conference, I got to get on an airplane. I'm going to a foreign country. Everything is different. The food, the water, the air, the people, the language of many kinds. It's a high resolution experience that changes you. Every trip changes you, or at least does me. I come home and I say, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because I'm older, but when I go to these virtual events, it's nice, and I do strike up new relationships, but I don't feel moved or changed in the slightest. I mean, afterwards, it's a flat Zoom.
I think it's the virtual conferences are still extremely valuable to communicate the information and to get the information to developers out there and continue that communication flow. But absolutely, there's significant disadvantages to a virtual conference in terms of person-to-person, face-to-face contact. Groups of people engaging together on an idea. Those kinds of things are hard to replicate in the virtual environment. I think it doesn't mean it's not possible to hold a virtual conference, which is obviously being demonstrated. There's lots of virtual events going on,
Yeah,
and they are proving popular. I think that probably in the future we'll probably see a hybrid situation where there's more virtual events than there were before, clearly, and less physical events. Because I think the one advantage of the virtual events is, that I do get to do more of them. I can present. Maybe previously I would only do like 5 conferences a year where I would present. Now, I could potentially present at a conference every week, which is not that I'm saying that I'm going to be doing that, but it's just it's viable now where it wasn't before, and maybe you get to hit a broader audience that way, and also in terms of attendees, they don't have to travel as much and so forth. So I think they're valuable, and it's kind of like a new medium in a way that we're exploring and making a reality. But I do hope that in the future there's a return of physical events as well, on-site events where and that I really do hope that they don't disappear, because I think there's still a huge value in, like I said, in the networking aspect.
Yeah, I noticed the Java community in Taiwan actually had a physical event recently. And so that was really good to see. Well, we're all in this sort of situation together. We'll have to see. I'm particularly interested to see how it affects innovation, product development, sales, and specifically innovation, because it's the developers who are at the edge, right? These are the people at the edge who are creating new things. And so you don't necessarily see the effect of that, whether it's good or bad, until a little time in the future. So
I think there have been many very successful companies that have been distributed from the get-go, and those companies, for those companies, it's obviously business as usual. Nothing has changed.
Right.
But for companies that have not been distributed from the beginning, or generally not, this transition will be much harder. And because I've worked in both environments where distributed environment and also working in an office, and my experience with distributed environments is that they work very well if the entire company is distributed. Right. Because you're forced to use the tools and to communicate and to make that happen, right? It's like you must make it happen. It's the only way. Whilst if you have a mix of people working in an office and distributed, what happens is you end up with pockets of people that have meetings and don't communicate with the rest of the company, or don't communicate with the virtual employees, and it starts to become problematic. So it may be that some companies use this as an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to go all distributed and we're never going to go back to the office. I don't know. Other companies were distributed before, so it won't make any difference. But obviously, for certain fields, not necessarily technology-related fields, it's crucially important to have people in the office, particularly in the more I guess creative fields, that kind of thing. So
right, exactly.
So yeah, we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, we're not going to have a choice. We're going there. So that's it. Yeah. So. All right, Graeme. Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. This is going to be, you're participating in Oracle Developer Live Java, which is actually in the background there. I see. That's the faceplate you guys are using. And I just got my kitchen blinds in back here. So.
Very nice blinds. So they blend very well in the background.
Thank you. All right. So that's September 15th. That's Tuesday. So good luck with the
Yeah,
conference.
and also on the 17th for Europe.
Oh, that's
as well.
right. 17th. 15th is for the Americas. The 17th is for, I think, the rest of the world. So I'll put the link and everything, down down below. So anyway, have a good event. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for your time. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.